Hey folks, and welcome to the show. I'm Amy, your motivational coach, and what you'll find here is a place there where you can come every day for a boost of motivation and to help you stay on track with your goals. You know, it's not easy changing habits and trying to get healthier, but my mission is to help you stay on track by tackling those huge challenges that come up time and time again. Staying positive, keeping that positive mindset is critical, and optimizing your diet and your exercise routine so you feel really good every day physically. They're the foundational habits of what we need to be successful in achieving our goals, especially our long-term goals. That big vision that we have for ourselves of what we can achieve in life is really dependent on these little things that we're trying to master. So I am sharing my best tips from the last 20 years working with clients, being a dietitian and a coach to help people be successful with change and stay successful. All right, let's do this. So today we're talking about quitting those bad eating habits so you can get back on track with your healthy eating. Sometimes when you want to get back on track with healthy eating, it can seem like there's so many details to keep track of and 100 places where you could get started. It's almost overwhelming, really, to just know where to start after you've kind of fallen off track. It just, taking that first step is almost overwhelming itself. So today I want to simplify this for you by talking about just the 4 biggest areas I think can make the biggest improvement in your healthy eating habits. You've probably already had some success in eating healthier at some point, just to some degree, but you might have slipped up a little bit and maybe you're not really sure exactly where the slip-ups have come. You might have lost track of that. So hopefully by the end of this episode, you'll have a clearer understanding of those top habits that you might be having that have the biggest impact, and you'll be able to save some time and have the energy to get back on track a lot more quickly. Number 1, you might be eating too much packaged food. And most packaged food is processed, right? So meaning the fiber is taken out of the carbohydrates. It's easy to digest it all. Every last calorie gets digested. Unlike a lot of fresh foods, we don't absorb all of those calories. So packaged foods also contain a lot more salt and fat and sugar, and that makes it easier to keep eating those foods even when you're full. Even if you're not hungry anymore, your hunger's probably over with, but you just end up eating more because they taste good. So it's just hard to kind of stop eating when you're full, when you're eating packaged foods. So I'm thinking packaged foods really broad, beyond junk food. I mean, power bars, protein bars, the bottled smoothies at the grocery store, drinks, and pre-made meals like the frozen burrito. So, a lot of times those are foods that are packaged up to be healthy, but just take an inventory and see how often you're eating these foods in a week. Maybe get a number or a figure and see if you can reduce that by 50%. I think reducing it by 50% can make a really big difference. So number 2 is you might be eating too much takeout or restaurant food. And this is easily the largest source of calories that we can encounter. A lot of the portions are 3 to 4 times as much as we would serve ourselves at home. And 3 to 4 times the protein and the carbs, not necessarily the veggies. Wouldn't be great if we had 3 times more veggies at home. But restaurant foods are also, they tend to be a lot more fried, like French fries, tortillas and chips and egg rolls and chicken strips. And so they contain a lot more fat and a lot more calories and higher fat ingredients like cheese. If you're eating out 3 times a week, it can be a problem. So see if you can reduce that by 50%. And see if that makes a difference for you. Okay, number 3 is that too many little things are adding up, also known as possibly a lack of awareness of food habits. So maybe you feel pretty comfortable cooking at home and eating balanced meals, that you have a little bit of wiggle room, you've let yourself have a little bit of moderation as far as when it comes to snacks or maybe sweets or drinks. So you might not be watching portion sizes very, very closely. So what can happen over time is that you become less and less aware of these extra calories sneaking in. And eventually that kind of throws you out of the maintenance, or maybe it throws you out of progress mode, and you start to see your progress going backwards. So a good example of this would be, if you're grabbing like a handful of nuts or trail mix or chocolate or dried fruit, or just, you're grabbing something to snack on here and there throughout the day. And it's not a lot at a time. So it's not like something to trigger that you think you need to track this in your food diary or your journal, your app. But what you find out later, it's actually 400 calories extra you're consuming, and you hadn't really thought about it because they were just little bites here and there. Maybe it's like you have a half a glass of wine at night, but you keep kind of topping it off at a half a glass. So you lose track of how much you've consumed. Is it 200 calories of wine or 400 calories of wine? So that's an example of like little things. And then you might even lose track if you say you don't have a lunchtime meal. So you end up losing track of the snacks that you're eating throughout the day from 10 o'clock to 4 o'clock. A lot of calories can get lost in there. And so the solution might be able to create a little bit more structure for yourself. Either going back to planned meals, or maybe you need to go back to start keeping track of the snacks that you're having throughout the day, just so that you keep that mental awareness piece key. Now, number 4 is lack of preparation and planning. So this is the last one I think it's almost the most significant. It's the lack of planning for meals, even snacks. Without planning, we'll run into lack of options, lack of choices at home. Maybe you don't have the healthy choices at home. You increase your likelihood for falling into old patterns like skipping the vegetable at dinner because you didn't really think about fixing one. Without planning, you will run out of your preferred healthy food options at home. So you'll be snacking on the tortilla chips because it's the quickest thing that you can grab because you still got to fix lunch. Without preparation and planning, you'll head into work without your lunchbox, without your lunch packed, and end up at the mercy of the cafeteria or the vending machine or takeout. Most diets and diet plans will include some aspect of meal planning or meal prepping, and people who do more preparation for planning what they're going to have to eat for the day tend to be more successful in their long-term goals, whether that's just eating healthier or losing weight or one of those goals in between. It doesn't really take a lot of time to plan ahead, so I think that's why people tend to skip. They're like, well, I can just figure out what I'm going to have for dinner, when I get home, because all I have to do is decide what I'm going to have. But I know it's hard to see the value in that extra step of planning even ahead before that. It's so much easier if we do that extra step to plan ahead, because when the time comes when you start to get hungry, you're fighting with biology at this point, and it's a losing battle. Anyhow, those are the top 4 areas that I've identified that people struggle with when they are trying to get back on track with healthy eating habits. It's sort of a mix of awareness and organization. And then, some are a little bit more food specific, like processed foods and high calorie foods, but it's really a blend of both. If you've slipped off track this year, definitely take an inventory of your own habits, and maybe one of these 4 are identified. I think if you just try starting with one area, it's gonna be a little bit easier to kind of ease into it. And then maybe adding a couple of personal guidelines can be added for a bit more structure. And soon, if when that structure is in place and following the structure, you can kind of pull yourself back on track towards your goals. So let me know if you have any questions, or leave a comment below and I'll be happy to answer it for you. And we'll see you back tomorrow. Take care.